Brian Klein here. Today I wanted to talk about one way that you can sort of parse through all the different boat designs that you might encounter if you're not super familiar with sailboats and maybe you're in the market for a sailboat or you're just starting to think about owning a sailboat. It can be very overwhelming because sailboats, I mean, they're just not typically as familiar to us as, say, cars might be. Like you can look at a really expensive car and you can just kind of tell, oh, it's really expensive, or look at a really fast one and you know, like, hey, that car looks really fast. It's probably really expensive, maybe not super super comfortable, excuse me, but you just kind of have this sense as you look around. You can say like, oh, that's probably kind of a cheap car, and that's a very luxurious car. And we've been around cars our whole lives usually, so it's usually a lot easier for us to parse through that. But then you go down to a marina and you start looking at all these different boats, and it's like, I don't know what how to think about the different design characteristics of different boats. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. So I walked the docks this morning and I just went around and I kind of shot some video of a few different boats. And we're going to talk about these boats in terms of three different main categories or characteristics. And these are the three things that the designer has to balance when they're designing the boat. So you've got cost, how expensive is it going to be? And you've got build quality. So just how well built, how high a quality are the materials? And then you've got your performance category. And performance can be sort of two different things. You have speed or you have comfort. You can have both. But that's what I mean when I talk about performance. Is that, usually there's a trade-off between speed and comfort. Either a very, very racy boat, or think of like a very high performance car, usually that's comfortable. If you have a very, very comfortable car, it's usually not quite as high performance, but sometimes you can have a pretty high blend of both, and that's going to result in a very high price tag. So usually you can get two out of the three between build quality, cost, and comfort or speed. You can get two out of the three, but not usually all three. So you're going to, like I said, if you're going to have a very comfortable and very fast and very high build quality, then it's going to be astronomically expensive. But you can get like an older boat, so the quality is a little bit lower. And I also kind of count that as like the speed is a little bit lower because you don't get it right away. You have to let that boat age. You might get it when it's 30 years old or something in order to get that cost down, but it's still a pretty quality boat. It might have a lot of the other features that you're looking for. Okay, so first up here we have, this is a Dana 24. This boat is 24 feet on deck, so it's relatively small, but it's built with very, very high standards of quality. It's built to be very, very strong, and it's built to sail long distances. It's not built to be very fast or super performant in that way, but it is very comfortable. But because it is high quality and high comfort, it is also high expensive. So this boat here is probably in the range of $70,000 if I had to guess, and it's probably getting close to 30 years old. But they maintain their value for a long time, and because they're so well made. And you see how the cabin top is sort of square. So you can see right there that this is not a boat that's designed for speed. It's not racy looking. It's more like shippy looking. And the square cabin top does two things. It gives you greater interior volume, but it also makes for a stronger structure up there. So it's designed to withstand like big waves and other things that might happen offshore, but it's designed for living comfort as well. All right, so that's a Dana 24. It's made by Pacific Seacraft. Small boat with big boat features and very, very high build quality. Next up, we have an Olsen 25. Now, right away, you can probably see that by the shape of the bow here, very sharp angles, and look how clean the decks are. So you do have side decks. This boat is 25 feet, so it's only 1 foot longer than that Dana 24. But you see the decks are very clean, and the cabin top slopes very gradually up. It's not square like the Dana is. You see that? Square cabin top. You can sit here on the bow and lean up against that cabin top. Not so on the Olsen 25 here. So this boat's designed to be fast and very lightweight, and to be very agile and nimble. So this is a little sports car. This is a sports coupe, if you want to think of it like that. And it does speed very well, and it's probably like a mid-range grade of build quality. This boat also is probably 30 years old, but it's going to be much less expensive because it's sort of like a lower range of build quality. It's built much lighter, and and it does fast, but not particularly comfortable. And I would guess this boat's probably $20,000 or less in this condition. So you can see this is a racing boat, period. It's got a little cabin space inside. You could do overnights on this boat, but it's not going to be like an offshore boat necessarily. It's not really designed to take like a huge pounding offshore and to be long-term comfortable, but it's a fantastically fun day racing boat. Here we have a Catalina 27. This was the same model of boat and roughly the same vintage. It was my first boat, and I bought it because they made like 14,000 of them, or maybe 7,000 of them or something, just an awful lot of them. And because they've been around for so long, this is probably like a late 70s, early 80s model, a vintage of Catalina 27. They're really well known, and you can get them for very, very inexpensive. Now, notice that the decks here are sort of a blend between the Dana 24 and the Olson 25 that we just looked at. You see that you do have increased headroom inside here, like the sides of the cabin top do come up. You've got side decks you can work along, and you've got a big open bow area here. This is 27 feet, so it's bigger than either of the two boats we just looked at. But you see the cabin top isn't swept back like the Olson was. It's a little bit more square, but not nearly. You can see the angle right here. Oops, not nearly as much as the Dana 24 is. So it's not going to be quite as strong as the Dana 24, just in terms of like the geometry of the build. Um, but it's going to be faster. It's designed to be a little bit sportier than the Dana 24, not nearly as sporty as the Olson 25. So you can see here, this is a really good mid-range blend of performance and comfort. And now I also happen to know that the build quality of these boats is not super high, but it's not garbage either. Um, and these boats, like I said, this boat's probably, around 40 years old or so, and totally, depending on how well it's taken care of, can be a totally serviceable boat. Inside, you'll typically have a whole galley and a head and a V berth up here in the front end, and like usually like a dinette sort of situation. So it's got like good living accommodations. So it's got like reasonable comfort, um, reasonable performance, and now, especially since it's been around for a while, the prices are pretty low, and it's like lower to mid build quality typically. So you can just get it for a tremendous price. My first boat, like I said, the same vintage of this model, I only paid around $4,000 for it. I'm not sure the make of this one. It looks like maybe a tartan. And here you can see that the cabin top is more square. And so it's going for a little bit more interior volume and a little bit stronger. And so therefore sacrificing a little bit more speed or performance. But you can see that like the bow entry angle here is still pretty aggressive. And that's usually an indicator of an eye for performance, that the designer was thinking a little bit more performance. But this, I mean, it clearly has a lot of interior volume as well. And so this to me looks like a racer cruiser, coastal cruiser kind of boat. You could do longer passages on this boat. Now we're moving into this boat sits firmly in the class of heavy blue water cruising boat. This boat is designed to live at sea. Um, this is very indicative of traditional design, very, very heavily built, high quality materials designed to be extremely comfortable sailing for long periods of time, long distances at sea. It's going to have a very slow motion in the waves so that it's not fatiguing to the crew. It's not designed to be very fast. although I'm sure it clicks off plenty of miles in a day. But you can see like the small port lights, right? So if you have breaking waves, you have waves breaking onto the boat, you don't want big windows that can be broken in. And look at the front of the cabin top here. It's square. It's like as square as we've seen yet. So that's for strength. So it gives you the headroom inside, but it also makes this a very strong structure up here. And you see this big working platform up here, again, like the Dana 24. Let me move my mug out of the way. So like the Dana 24, you got a platform up here, and that's for working with your sails when you have one. This is the furler for the head sail up here. So working with your sails up there and also working with your ground tackle. Nice big working platform there. And you can see other features like you've got this, like how deep this tow rail is right here. So that if you're working along the deck, the side decks here, when the boat's heeling over, you've got a really nice surface that's going to keep you contained inside the boat. You can kind of tell how deep it is because of where this line goes through. So the deck is level here, and then it goes all the way up here. That's like a 6 or 8 inch high tow rail um, for safety. You can see it's got place on top for a dinghy. It's got a dodger. This boat's designed to go places, and it's outfitted to go places. Okay, so this is a Beneteau, and Beneteaus are becoming really popular currently because they look really nice. They present very, very well, and they have a lot of interior space, and they're just very modern feeling boats. And it's not just their feeling; they are very modern boats, but they're also designed with comfort. I should probably pick apart comfort a little bit. There's like long distance ocean going comfort, and then there's like entertaining, um, at the dock comfort. It really is the right way to put it. Beneteaus are usually designed to be more towards the at the dock comfort level of design. Not all Beneteaus, okay? They do have like an offshore performance end to their models, but I'm talking more about these boats that are clearly designed to have a lot of interior space and cockpit space. You can tell just by like, I don't know if you can tell, a lot of freeboard here. So it stands very tall from the water to the decks. And then, oops, sorry. Hope nobody's getting seasick for my scrolling. Yeah, this very bulbous cabin top. It's an interesting design. Um, so it is kind of trying to blend like smoother lines for performance while also getting that interior volume sort of ballooning out. But here's one thing you can look at immediately, and you know that this boat is not designed for serious offshore work, is look up here. Here's the mainsail. It's furled up inside the mast, which is a very convenient thing. So you don't have to flake the mainsail and fold it and deal with all that. You can just roll it up inside the mast, but it's a complex system. And if any part of that fails, you can be you can be stuck with your mainsail like half out, um, and unable to get rid of your mainsail. So these aren't designed to be like highly reliable at sea. Look here, you can see the Traveler is forward of the Dodger, so the Traveler is out of the cockpit. And again, the purpose of that is to make the cockpit more spacious and less cluttered, but it is not as strong as of a configuration for the boom for the sailing rig as it would be if the Traveler was back further aft, which would put it in the cockpit. So Beneteau is the brand. And again, almost everybody I know who hasn't been around sailboats a long time, they look at Beneteaus and they always say like, "Yeah, that's a nice looking boat," and they're not wrong. They are nice looking boats, but I, I personally don't believe they're built to last for a long time. I've seen too many of them have sort of catastrophic failures in the wrong places, like the Traveler ripping out of the deck of the boat because there was an uncontrolled jibe. I don't think these boats are designed to be around in 20 and 30 years. Um, Time will tell, but that's my feeling on them right now. So there's the in-mast furled mainsail. As you can see, it's very clean. The whole mainsail is inside the mast right there. That's just the sun protected corner of it sticking out, and then you just draw it out along the boom here. So the mainsail appears and disappears just like a furled jib. All right. And then right next to it, you see this? Look at this difference in design. This is a very traditionally designed boat. I'm not sure what this is a Mariner or something like that. But I mean, it's just got like classic and traditional written all over it. It's got this big working platform out here in the bowsprit. It's got at least one anchor roller. There's probably a second anchor roller on the other side of the bowsprit. You've got this standing tow rail all the way along the side of these wide decks, so it's designed to be like safe and comfortable to move around on the deck at sea. Square. This is a forward hatch. Square built hatches for strength. Square cabin tops for strength. Um, the only thing about this that like gives me a little bit of pause for real ocean going durability is the size of these windows are somewhat large for the size of boat and just for taking wave impacts, but maybe the glass is super strong or whatever. um, you can see like the cockpit is well enclosed. It does have a wheel, but it's a relatively small cockpit, which is also sort of a seagoing design feature, so it can't hold a lot of water. If you have waves breaking into it, it doesn't weigh the boat down. It just drains quickly. But you can just see, and it's a catch rig, which is sort of, it's not designed for high performance for sure. This boat is not performance oriented. It is designed to be comfortable in a seaway, um, and it looks. All right, we have to leave it there. We could look at boats all day, talk about boats all day. Hopefully this helps you kind of parse through the different designs of sailboats that are out there, helps you figure out what kind of boat you might need for the kind of sailing that you want to do. I'm Brian Klein. Thank you for joining me. See you in the next one.